Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It's a lovely, cold, crispy, Christmassy Friday evening, and I'm starting to get the Christmassy feeling. I've got to be honest with you, I'm a big kid. I love Christmas. I don't know why, because it's about 25 years since anyone bought me a goddamn Christmas present, but I'm still looking forward to it. I know Christmas is coming because I went into Brighton today, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the car parks were full. Oh my God, what a bloody nightmare. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Richard, who is down there in sunny Northern Ireland. Not very sunny, is it really, Richard?
No, it's not. Do you know what, Paul? I was just thinking, you're on the naughty list. That's what the problem is. 25 years on the naughty list. That's a long time. That's a long stretch, mate.
Yeah. We've got Danny in Spain, where it is a bit warmer.
It's a little bit. It's still pretty cold of a night, mate. It's cold of a night, mate. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Bit nippy.
Well, you need it because you get a bit sweaty in the summer, don't you, Danny?
Well, exactly that. Yeah, I put my hoodie on for this one. You know.
Yeah. And we got a very special guest sitting underneath me there this evening. It is Nick Buckley, MBE. Nick's one of my, well, I've got to say, one of my favourite commentators when I watch Nick, and it's a warm welcome back to the show for Nick. He's the former mayoral candidate for Manchester, an independent candidate. He came third, actually beat Reform. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And I've already had my Christmas present. I've had it early because I'm back on your show.
What a lovely.
How to make friends and influence people. That's why you came third.
Just knock me and Richard off, mate. Just knock me and Richard off.
We're finished now, Danny. It's over.
Yeah, goodbye, Richard. Goodbye, Danny. Oh, mate, what a lovely welcome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let's give it a few minutes for people to pile in. We've got 1,275 people already. Olga says the cuppa ready and waiting. Let's have a look. Sue wants coffee. Look, they're all on the coffees and the obnobs and all the rest of it. Good evening, Keith says hi, Claire. Ian, thank you very much, Ian, for modding as usual. By the way, Ian deserves a medal because Ian has been my main moderator now basically since the show started, and I can tell you some nights he has his work cut out, but he's there, he's doing the job, he's a grand Geordie lad, and he's an absolute diamond. So big up, Ian. Thank you so much for that, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. Right, guys, let's get started. What we'll do is, before we get into the main topic, there was something that happened yesterday. I put it on X, and I immediately had a raving lefty on my case, calling me all sorts of names. My daughter was in Brighton yesterday, and there was a guy laying there who he was laying on the floor, and the people walking by, the general consensus of opinion was they thought he'd probably had a heart attack. And people at the scene had called an ambulance, and they were told that it would be 2 hours. 2 hours for an ambulance in the city centre for someone that's potentially, as it turns out, I don't think it was a heart attack. I think it was some kind of seizure. But he eventually got to hospital. A passerby and some other people loaded him up into a car, and they drove him to the hospital. They were told it was 2 hours for an ambulance, and it was that bad that someone actually put a post on Facebook requesting or asking if there was a paramedic or a doctor in the area to help. Now, the last time I called an ambulance, albeit for a mere kidney stone, but if you've ever had one, I can tell you they're not very mere, right? I was told there were none available at all. It was like, we can't even tell you when. It could be 6, 7 hours. We just don't know. So again, I had to make my own way to the hospital, which in my case was possible. You know, my wife sort of shoved me in the back of the car, and I laid there screaming in agony for the journey. But what sort of state are we getting in? I mean, Dan, what's it like in Spain? If you call an ambulance in Spain, do they have any problems with response times, do you know?
I don't think so. Fortunately, I've not had to do so for myself or the family. But I do know a few people that have. there's been an awful lot of people with cardiac arrest recently, and we had a guy walk into one of the restaurants the other day, and he come in every single morning, dropped down dead just before he got there. There was no chance of a recovery for him, unfortunately. But as far as I understand, the ambulance times are pretty quick here. But Paul, look, right, how do you combat this problem in the UK? Open up your floodgates, let everyone come in, which would be, they never get sick, the new people, do they, that are coming in left, right and centre, legally, illegally, whatever. It doesn't take a mathematician, does it, to work out if you've got 10 million people or 100 million people, you're going to obviously struggle more with your services than 100 million people if you're not combating the problem, is it? And we're not combating the problem, are we? So, it's simple mathematics. It will only get worse, won't it?
Nick, what about up where you are? Is there similar sort of problems, or do you not have so many problems? I don't know.
I think this is a problem no matter where you live in the UK. And the bigger the city you're in, the bigger the problem. This is just another symptom of our country failing. We're slowly turning into a third world country where you can collapse on the street and you can lie there, not for 2 hours. There's a woman who broke her hip a couple of weeks ago. That was on social media. 5 hours, this 80, 90-year-old woman lay on the street with passerbys putting their coats on her as blankets. 5 hours for her, for an ambulance to turn up. I mean, what's the solution to this? I have no idea. But if I worked all my life in the NHS, I know for a fact I'd have the answers. But nothing works. It isn't just the NHS, it's everything. Everything is falling apart around us, and we just seem to be accepting it.
Yeah. Richard, do you know what? This week, me and you were having a little chat earlier on, and I don't think I've ever felt so tired with the whole thing this week. I felt drained. I've got to be honest, and I shouldn't really say this because my job is to try and make people feel better. But I felt very frustrated this week. I felt a bit low because I see so many. I put a post on X earlier on, and it just summed up how I felt. And I said something about every single serving politician that we've had from all parties over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Every single goddamn one of them pretty much has been a waste of time, a liar, full of deceit, and has let everyone down to the point of absolute failure and treachery. And I'm just, like a lot of other people, I just despair at what I see. We see that beautiful young girl that was brutally murdered by her parents, step-parents, wherever they are. The failure to spot that something there wasn't right is just beyond me. And this is one organisation after another, one person after another, taking money from whoever pays them and not doing their goddamn job properly.
We pay them. Never forget, we pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
Nick just
exactly.
Said,
it drives me
Nick just
to
said,
the point of despair.
Paul, Nick just said that lady waited 5 hours for an ambulance. Then how long would she have waited for a hospital bed? How long?
Yeah.
It's not just there, is it? It's failing the other end as well. My dad was in hospital a few weeks ago, as you know, and they were having areas in the corridors where they had cordoned it off with like some sort of boards and stuff, and they were doing work on people inside in the corridors.
Oh yeah. Well, the corridor. I think the hospital corridor now has simply become another wall. Let's have a little look at this image today that took my eye on X earlier on. This is the scene. I want to show you this scene. And here are the belongings of a gentleman called John. He was 65-year-old British man who died a couple of days ago. He died alone and cold, and he was left to die at the side of the road by a car park. He had no heating, no home, no heating allowance, no hotel room, no hope, no help, absolutely nothing. 65 years old, and that is where he died. Is that
Paul, he should have got on a dinghy, mate. He would have been in a 5-star hotel. We're failed in every single thing that we do in the UK, aren't we? We're failing every single thing. Apart from the things that everyone's despairing about.
it just beggars belief that we can get. I mean, Richard, we have a big homeless problem here in Brighton. What's it like in Northern Ireland there?
It's not too bad. I mean, there is homelessness, but Northern Ireland's still quite a tight knit community. But obviously, we're getting the problems that the rest of the country's had. Obviously, the south of Ireland is completely in a terrible, terrible state because of, and let's just get it right, it's because of lack of border control. It's as simple as that. That's the problem that's happening throughout the UK. So it is happening in Northern Ireland, but we're probably 5 years behind everybody else. But it's now noticeable. And of course, we've got the migrant hotels and all the issues that come with come with that. And this seems to me like deliberate policy, not just by the British government, by the Irish government, by the French government, by the German government. They seem to be deliberately committing cultural suicide, and that is obviously, and again, like we've always said, we're not blaming the people that are coming into the country. We're blaming the policymakers and the people that are profiting from the people that are coming into the country.
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely,
don't get me wrong. There will be wrong uns coming into the country. There's no doubt about that, because it's so easy for them to get in. And especially, I think one of the things that I'm really concerned about is what's happened in Syria and what the repercussions of that are going to be for Western Europe, because, the reality of the situation is Al Qaeda has just taken over Syria. They're not these super new cuddly PC jihadis. It's Al Qaeda. They're just playing a cleverer game. And,
well, they're £11 million richer, Richard, this week.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that.
I mean, Nick,
and they're
what do you make?
Still designated as a terrorist organisation, but we're giving them money.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, what do you make of the government sending £11 million to an organisation that is on the proscribed terrorist list in this country? I mean, is that just not utter insanity? What is that all about?
The only good news there is it was only 11 million, because when our governments give away money to foreigners now, it's in the billions. We've just promised Africa over 12 billion to tackle climate change. And let me give the government some advice. It's hot in Africa. It always has been hot in Africa. We're giving our money, we're giving our taxes away like it's going out of fashion. And then talking about that homeless man who's died. I've spent 20 years tackling rough sleeping. I used to do it for the council, Manchester Council. And then when I set my charity up, I set a project up within that, tackling rough sleeping. I know what I'm talking about. I advised Boris Johnson's government when he was PM on how to tackle rough sleeping across the country. We've always had problems with rough sleeping. Rough sleeping really is a mental health epidemic. It's broken people who end up on the streets, end up taking alcohol and drugs to dull the pain of their lives, and then they become more broken. And the reason why we allow British people to sleep on the streets, and this is going to be quite hard to hear now, but the reason why, because the British people really don't care. How do I know that to be true? Is because I've never met anybody who's ever wrote to their councillor, to the MP, to the government and said, what are you doing about rough sleeping? I know for a fact people care about elephants, because we send British soldiers to Africa to guard elephants and guard their big open spaces and train their rangers. I know we care about plastic straws because our government spent millions of pounds banning plastic straws. But when it comes to our fellow citizens living and dying in pain on the streets, we don't care. If we cared, politicians would do something about it. This should be a national shame. We all should be ashamed of ourselves.
That's a powerful statement, Nick, and I think you're right. To be fair, I think you're absolutely. I think you're spot on. Let me just get one or two of the chats. BMS Consulting's a new member. Thank you very much, Si. Appreciate that. Good evening, gents. Alan. Hi, gentlemen. Thank you. Angela is also a new member. Lee Butcher, thank you. And Wendy, thank you very much. My sister had a heart attack at 9 p.m. Phoned ambulance. It said it would be 12 to 24 hours. Ran them back. As my niece works for doctors, it still took them 4 hours. I mean, these are simply... This is third world level, isn't it? Third world level. John Baldwin, thank you so much, Jimbo. I saw on Talk TV the other day that if you or someone has a heart attack or stroke, you might have to make your own plans to get to hospital. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's this was never an issue. Well, it was never an issue when I was younger. Lee, thank you, mate. Hi, Paul, Danny, Richard, and Nick. Eddie Lewis. Good evening, gents. New Richard lookalike Bennett, the baddie from the Schwarzenegger film Commando.
Yes,
that's not a bad one.
That's a spot on one.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Do you know what we're talking about?
Yes, I do.
Bennett, yeah, with the little fishnet vest that he used to wear. Yeah, it's good. I like that.
Wendy Napper. Guys, if you want to introduce a little bit of humour tonight, please feel free to do so. Let's have your little ideas of who we could be tonight. Wendy Napper, thank you. While she was in hospital, she caught COVID. Well, there you go. That's just about sums it up, doesn't it? Nick, I watched your performance on Dan Wootton's show yesterday, and I've got to say, mate, I was bloody impressed. I thought you were brilliant. And I'll be honest with you, it's that I mean, we speak now and again via email, etc. But I thought, you know what, I've got to get Nick on the show again because you were brilliant on Dan's yesterday. Well done. You spoke about something
Thank you.
that really took my ear. And you said, what's needed in this country is a grand coalition. What does that look like, Nick? You know, for Nick Buckley, what does a grand coalition look like, and what does that mean to you?
If we look at our political environment at the moment and we look at the landscape, we know who we don't want. We know who we don't want to work with. We don't want Labour. You know, I've never wanted Labour, but Labour have been in power now 5 months and we're all going, we don't want these guys. They've been part of the problem. Then we look at the Tories. The past 14 years, I can only say, has been the worst government in my lifetime. The Tories have ruined lots of things by neglect. And so we don't want them. But then we look beyond that, and we've got so many people who want to do good, who have got who want to put the country first. And they'll all disagree on certain things, but that's fine. We've got Reform, we've got Reclaim, we've got the Heritage Party, we've got Tommy Robinson. I could name another 10, 20 small parties or high-profile individuals, and they all want the same thing, which is to save the UK. Now, at the moment, they are also against each other to a certain extent. That's not how we run this country. We need to come together. And a good example would be, look at Trump. Look what Trump's done in America at the last campaign. He's brought people on board who disagree with half his policies, but on one or two policies they agree with, and they're going to work on those policies. He's brought Democrats on board. He's brought billionaires on board. He's brought people on board who didn't like him last time, 8 years ago, who actually said, I'm voting against him. I don't trust him. I don't like him. He's brought them on board now. I'm sick of politics always being a popularity contest. You know, I'm not working with you because you don't like this. I'm not working with you because you said this about me. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about the leaders. It's about this country that I'm watching through the whole of my life slowly dying. And if we can't start pulling these people together, no, I'm not saying all join under one umbrella. I'm just saying everybody can offer something and offer the solution to this country. And we need a new leader to come forward who says, this is about the UK, not me. And I'm going to work with everybody who's got the same vision as me, which is saving the UK. It can be done. It'll take like a Thatcher, like a Trump. It'll take someone unique. And I'm hoping that person's on the way.
Who is that?
I think
I've no. For me, I don't think we've heard. I don't think we know their name yet.
Richard, what was you going to say? Sorry.
I think that man's in prison. I'll be honest with you. I think Tommy, if we look at the way Tommy's carried himself, I'm going to see him at the weekend. If we look at the way he's carried himself, he has, he's extremely forgiving. I mean, that man has got more grief than anybody else I've seen. I mean, I remember obviously living in Northern Ireland when we had Jerry Adams and Martin McGuinness been feted as heroes, and we all know what they did in the dirty days. And, Tommy's never done anything like that. He's never been involved in terrorism or racism or anything extreme. In fact, if you look at the policies he's always espoused, they're far more progressive than I would be, and he's been demonized as this right wing demagogue. So I think Tommy, if he was given the chance, would be the man that could bring people together. I really do. And I know it might sound crazy to a lot of people, but I do think he's got the ability to do that because of his. It's because we know him, Paul, and we know what his personality is. Yes, he's a flawed man like all of us, but at the same time, he has got that likability factor, and he is an extremely welcoming and generous man. So and like I say, it might sound crazy to a lot of people, but we know him and we know what he's capable of doing.
Look, Richard, I agree with what you're saying, but I think my question to Nick, or what I was perhaps talking about more, was Prime Minister material. I mean, as much as we love Tommy, I don't think Tommy is the first person himself to admit he wouldn't want to be Prime Minister, let alone the chances of that ever happening. So I think my question to Nick Moore was, do you have someone in mind that's going to step forward and potentially become a future Prime Minister? And you're saying, Nick, that you don't believe that person has come through yet?
The only person you could maybe put that label on at the moment to become Prime Minister would be Nigel Farage. Is he the person to do it? I don't know. I know lots of people who dislike him, not because of, like Tommy Robinson, not because of anything he said, just because he's a Marmite figure. I don't know. I really don't know. I just believe that cometh the hour, cometh the man, or cometh the woman.
It's a great question, because you know what, Danny? I've often said, it's funny Nick should say that. Danny, I've been saying for years, as long as I can remember, of all the millions and millions and millions of people that live in this country, that has been, let's be honest, this has been the greatest country on God's earth over the years. And there's not a nation on this planet that comes anywhere near to the achievements that we've achieved over the years, over history.
Over the years, and not now.
Over the years, not now. And I can't believe that we can't find one person, just one, that is capable of crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, coming together, uniting. Uniting, I mean, as Richard knows, trying to unite people. What we've said before about
herding cats. It's like herding cats. I mean, I think there's something we've got to factor into this, and Nick touched on it. I'm not sure if he said it before he came on air or after he came on air. So forgive me if this was off air. But you said about the subject of your next book. Is it okay for me to mention what you're going to do the next? Yeah, okay. So Nick said he was going to do the next book on white supremacy. One of the problems we've got on our side of politics is there is an extreme right wing. And it's always probing and trying to get into our movement. There is a racist, anti-Semitic, hateful, goose-stepping set of nut jobs out there that are trying to, and they basically groom people, and they attach themselves to political parties, and they push certain doctrines and ideologies and ideas. And it's happened in every party. They've had them in the Conservative Party, they've had them in Reform, they've had them in UKIP, they've had them in all of the parties on our side. And that's the problem. And then what happens is there's a reaction against that, which is quite right. And we've very sometimes forcefully reacted against that when we've had people like that come into our demos and in different circumstances. But that reaction can sometimes do what happened years ago with UKIP, where they had a rule: if you'd ever been associated with any group like that, you were damned forever. You couldn't change your mind and become a decent person. Whereas I think there's got to be a way back for people like that have gone down that rabbit hole. But if they don't come back, they can't join the party. And that's, again, a lot of the thinking behind the pledge was about that. So that if somebody signs the pledge, they must be against extremism. They must be anti-racist. They must be against anti-Semitism and all hate, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to sign the document. So I think that's, it's getting that grand coalition together, but isolating the extremes on both sides, which would mean that, you know, the so-called progressives that are not progressive at all, they're extremely regressive, and they want to stifle everybody's freedom of speech. They want to have everybody in their little identity boxes, so they're just as racist as the far right. So it's a question of having the sensible, normal people that believe, like I think all four of us would believe, that we don't care what colour your skin is, we don't care where you go and about what God you go and bow your knee to. What we care about is what you think of Britain and how you think Britain should be made to work better for all the people, and that's always been, you know, our doctrine. So that's my thing. We've got to be able to unify about what are common British principles, and obviously at the end of the day, we've also got to acknowledge that Britain has been for 1600 years a Christian country, and that's got to be acknowledged in that mix as well, that our DNA is Christian DNA, and that doesn't mean that we make everybody that comes to the country be a Christian. It just means that people that come here have got to acknowledge that, and that's got to be a foundational thing as well. So I think
certainly respect it, Rich.
certainly,
They've got to respect
yeah,
that it's a Christian country that they're moving
and not
to.
try and push other cultures on top of it to the extent that that's pushed out and taken over, and people are, you know, forced to act in a certain way. So we're fighting on all these fronts at the same time, and it's extremely, and that's why you're tired, Paul, because that fight is very much going on in what we're all involved in, because we're constantly involved in these struggles. And I've been doing this for 7 years, and it has never changed. You know, it's always the extremes on every side that are attacking us and trying to stop us doing what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I've been feeling. Yeah, of course you can, Nick.
Yeah.
Far away.
I just wanted to jump in what you said about who can we see a leader coming down the track. I've started saying to people, stop looking for a leader, because you're a British man or you're a British woman. We don't need a leader. If we spend our time trying to find someone who's going to lead us to the promised land, we're more likely to pick a con artist. So stop looking for this person to you know, a Gandhi, a Dr. Martin Luther King, a Mandela. Let's stop looking for someone to save us. The only people who can save us are us. If you're waiting for someone to save you, then that means you're not carrying your own weight. That means you're not doing the things in your life that you need to do to save your life, to save your family, to save your community, to save your country. Once you're doing that and you're involved in saving everything that needs saving, leaders automatically float to the top. So, but because we've spent the last 50 years living in a socialist state, we keep looking for other people to fix our problems. The person who's going to fix this problem are me, you, and everyone listening to this. And then a quick point on Tommy Robinson. The issue with Tommy Robinson is his accent. It really is. It's his accent. If he talked with a posh accent, he'd be like Douglas Murray. But because he's got a common accent, he's been demonized for the last 20 years. And that's because of our class system over here. He's never been taken seriously, and he's been demonized because his accent and where he was born fits into the narrative. But like I said, his views are no different to Douglas Murray.
Absolutely.
I would say his views are not much different to Robert Jenrick's when it comes to migration, etc. I mean, if you listen to what Robert Jenrick's been saying for the last few months, particularly about migration, I don't see a lot of difference, if any. Quite frankly,
there's actually a very interesting thing that Tommy said years ago, and not many people have picked up on it. And he said, when David Cameron said multiculturalism has failed, Tommy said, no, it hasn't. That's what Tommy said. He says multiculturalism hasn't failed. He says one culture's integration has failed. It's not the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Methodists. We all know what it is. And that's what the problem is that Tommy's highlighted. But because that problem is so well financed and so well organized and has such a lot of power, not just in the UK, but around the world, it is literally a heresy that you will not be forgiven for if you're vocal about that specific problem. And it's the cowardice of our mainstream politicians, the media, the police, the judiciary, which are all incidentally now completely infiltrated by extremist groups, that is exacerbating this and meaning that Tommy is sitting in prison, not because he made a film, but because they want him out of the way. And that's the reality of the situation, because he's a threat, because because he can galvanize people. And like the Pied Piper, he can lead an army, and not about a physical army, but he can lead a lot of men. And that is why they're absolutely terrified of him. And I find that a shame on Britain, an absolute shame on Britain.
Danny, when I was in Spain a couple of weeks back, one of the things that my wife noticed, and she said how lovely it was, is that it's very obviously a Christian country. Yeah. Very obvious. There's crosses everywhere. There's churches everywhere.
Very religious.
It's a very religious. It's a very obvious Christian society. Do you think that Christianity has been bullied in this country?
I think it's been completely destroyed in the UK. I mean, like I say, going back to our so-called Mayor of London, he's implementing. I mean, as everyone's got to have seen the Christmas tree they've just put up. It looks like a corn on the cob. It's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment for the country. It really is.
I reckon that came out of the pound shop, didn't it?
Seriously, mate, I don't even think it cost £1. I said to a couple of people that the Christmas tree on my car dashboard is better than that. I haven't got a Christmas tree on my car dashboard. I just want to make that quite clear.
You're a liar, Danny. I bet you have. I bet you
have. All right.
He took the dice off to make way for it.
Yeah. But seriously,
the boxing gloves, the dangly boxing gloves.
Yeah, the boxing gloves in front of it. No, look, right, when they turned that on the other day, I just saw a corn on the cob. That's all I saw. But anyway, moving that aside, I think Khan's behind that as well. It's all little hints, right? Implementing the congestion charge on electric vehicles on Christmas Day. That's when it starts, the 25th of December. It's an attack on Christianity. And they're all little things all the time, but it's ping, 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 and they're just constantly doing it, tapping it away. It's dissolving, mate. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And that's all part of their plan, mate. This is not by mistake. None of this is by mistake. The immigration problem that we've got, migration problem, it is not by mistake. It is all being allowed deliberately. It's deliberate.
Linda,
I'm just thinking about the corn on the cob thing. And basically what you're saying, Danny, is that the Christmas tree came out of the slot bin at Nando's. That's basically what you're saying, isn't it? That's where it came from.
Yeah, you've got it, mate. You've got it. Seriously, if you've not seen it, YouTube it. It's when they put the Christmas tree lights on. Honestly, it's embarrassing for the UK, in my opinion. Trafalgar Square, terrible.
Linda Stone, thank you very much. It would be easier if you only got free NHS. If you have an NHS number, the patient numbers would reduce. Hospitals are being used as doctors' surgeries. They are. In fact, my wife's got a problem with her knee this week, and she never needs the doctors. And she rang the doctors. No luck. I said, look, we'll just go straight out of the hospital. So, in all honesty, we're using the hospital as a doctor's surgery. Nina Vanava, thank you, Nina. Always appreciate you. Hi, my lovelies. It all started with Tony Blair, and it's got worse since then. I think you're absolutely spot on there, Tony. Really appreciate that, mate.
He's got a hand in this still, Paul.
So much.
Tony Blair has still got a hand in all this that's going on in
without
the UK.
A doubt.
100%.
Cop Watcher 2, been a member for 8 months. Hi, Paul. Hope you are all good. Love your channel. Thank you, mate. And Lee says, I'm only 52, but even I'm getting to the point of giving up. Being thankful I don't have a long time left on this earth is not the way to think. What terrible thing to.
That's a great comment, but a really sad comment, isn't it?
But a sad one, yeah. Lee Butcher, cheers, Lee. It's not about making the right decision. It's about making the decision right. Reform, just stepping stone out of this. I mean, that is a good point, because look, my support for reformers waned and toed and froed and gone and come back again. And I mean, at the moment, I'm a little bit non-political at the moment. I'm just sitting back, biding my time, waiting to see what develops. I noticed before the show started, there was a few people saying, let's not have another night of reform bashing. Do you know what? I don't consider we've ever bashed reform. What we don't want, guys, what we do not definitely want is another bloody Tory party, full of people that have just spent 14 years selling us down the river. I am sick and tired of posh accents, Oxbridge bloody educations, and people that just have not got a clue about real life. And like Nick just said, Tommy's problem is his accent. Well, you know what? I used to think, there's no way someone like me belongs in Parliament. But actually, I'm thinking that it's now time for people just like us to be in Parliament. People with hearts and with common sense and with A-levels in life. Because the ones that we've had have let us down rotten.
Do you know what, Paul? Much as I despise the Labour Party, if you look at the Labour Party obviously before my time, the 60s, but certainly in the 70s, there was a lot of people in Parliament with accents like ours, because it was still then, the Labour Party was the working man's party. Now, I didn't like the politics, but they were the party of the working class, for sure. Yes, there was a few Oxbridge people in there, and there was some, there was people from the House, there was lords and what have you in there, but a lot of them were working class people who'd gone through the system and worked their way up through the unions or whatever. So, and even as lately as the fellow that just died there, the guy that had almost as good a right hook as Danny. What do they call him? The one that chinned the guy Prescott, John Prescott. Yeah, John Prescott. He was kind of one of us. So. Yeah. But the Tory party's never really gone down that road. Yes, they had Lee Anderson, but he was a token that they threw out at the first opportunity. So I think, look, I don't want to go down the political road because I'm very much just sitting back at the minute and going, right, what's my next move myself? So I'm not going to start a party political broadcast for anyone tonight. But I do think the pledge is the answer to or a lot of this, because you're talking about bringing something together, Paul.
We need numbers.
Nick was saying about the Grand Coalition. That's the best way to get a Grand Coalition, because what the pledge does, and I don't know if have you seen it, Nick? Have you seen the pledge?
Yes, I've signed it.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant! Excellent. Thanks, Nick. That's great. That is really fantastic. Well, I mean, the thing about the pledge is, it's an ideology that people can get behind. It's exactly what you were saying. When you've got an ideology and a common belief system, then you don't need a leader, because leaders will come and go. It's whether the leaders buy into that ideology. And I think what's been done with the pledge, it's codified what we all kind of know instinctively is right. And we've some very clever people, far cleverer than me, wrote it all down and put it all together. So, that's something I think we can all galvanise behind. And I'd love to see, we know we've got people from Reform have signed it. We know we've got people from all sorts of different political backgrounds have signed it already. So,
Richard, also, it's doing bloody well. The pledge is doing really well. I mean, I think I saw something earlier. Reform have just got 100,000 members. Well, that's a mainstream organisation, isn't it? We're not.
Last time I checked, we were 20 sign-ups shy of 50,000 with no money.
So that's half of Reform already.
Yeah. And if we aim
pushed.
Can we say about what we're going to do?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's next weekend.
The weekend of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
We're going to have our first weekend of action. I was going to call it a day of rage, but you didn't think that was a good idea, Paul, did you?
No.
I'm joking. No. But no, when something goes wrong in the Middle East, they have these days of rage. You know what I mean? It says let's have a day of rage where we get everybody to sign up. But no, we're gonna have 3 days of action. It's coming up to Christmas, so it's a big ask of all of us and all the people we're asking to get involved. But Paul, what are your thoughts on how it's all going to go down and how it's going to happen?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to appeal to everyone that's already signed the pledge to sign up at least one more person, preferably 101. But look, over that weekend, we're going to ask everyone to make the effort to nip round to your family, nip round to your friends. So all you got to do is take your mobile or your tablet with you and get as many people signed up to the pledge as possible. I'm going to be honest, our aim, or my aim at least, is to double our membership in one weekend. And if we don't, Richard, I'm gonna be honest, I'll be really disappointed because, you know, the work and effort, time and money that has gone into doing what we're trying to do here to try and give something back to the people, if they can't just sign one more person up each, which would would take us to the magical 100,000 figure, I'm going to be disappointed. But I think our people will respond. I really do think they will respond. So, you know, look, all you got to do, you pick up your phone, you take it to your neighbour, your friend, your family, one person each, minimum, please. One person each, and we double our number. And
well,
that would
if
be
everyone that signed it
just
got two,
amazing.
if everyone that signed it got two, that puts us on 150,000.
Exactly,
more than
exactly.
before.
You know,
Much more than
Exactly.
before.
yeah.
Tim, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Tim, I appreciate that. Let me just read a couple of these out. BC Let Jog. Thank you, mate. Lost Hubby. Oh, sorry. It's a lady. Lost Hubby 2020. Gov Army veteran, 28 years. Normandy vet, granddad, 99 years old. End of life care, 2022. Mum, just done end of care again. Last two due to Jabby. System broke. Time for direct democracy. Led by Andrew. Time for justice for all. Blimey, you've had a rough last few years. Sorry to hear that. Thank you, David.
Can I just jump in there, Paul? There was a
Go on,
woman,
mate.
when we were in the Union Jack Club after the last, it was the last event, wasn't it? Was it the last event? Yeah, I think it was the last event.
Yeah, we was.
We were in the Union Jack Club, and there was a woman came up to me. She's from Liverpool, and her husband was murdered by the IRA in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. So she was an honorary member of Union Jack Club, because obviously it's a veterans club, and she was so pleased that our movement had given voice to her concerns. She'd been a widow for 30 years. She was widowed when she was in her mid-20s. Think about that. So she's widowed at the height of the Troubles, or as the Troubles were coming to an end. Her husband was a bomb disposal guy, killed in a bomb attack in Belfast, and she brought a family up on her own. Struggled. She said it was a struggle all the way through, but all the kids were doing really great. They were all in really good careers and professions. And she said what our movement had done was given her a sense of purpose and made her proud to wear her husband's medals again. Because she said she was giving up hope, you know. And bless her, she's only our age, Paul. She's not an old, you know. It's not like she's in her 60s or 70s. She, you know. And it was an inspiring conversation. You know, it's one you wish you kind of got on camera just for posterity's sake. You know what I mean? Because it was, you try to remember everything that she said, but I just remember, and that was after about 6 pints. I could still remember what she was saying to me. You know, so you know she was brilliant. She was really, really good. So you know, people that have suffered a lot, they've still got a lot to give. Do you know what I mean? So that guy earlier that said he's 52 and he's ready to give up, mate. Don't give up. Don't give up. You're young. 52. I think 52 is young. You know? It's not old. So you know, keep going.
I'd like to be 52 again. Let me get on to look, Nick. You've got a book that's out right now. Nick Buckley, MBE, England, My England: The Death and Resurrection of the Greatest Country to Ever Exist. Tell us a bit about it, Nick. Tell us about the book.
So I started writing the book a week after the Southport atrocity, where the 3 little girls got murdered. The book had been floating in my mind for a little while about this is something I want to write, but that was the catalyst of why I started writing it. Because it was people contacting me online at some of the conversations, you know, we've had this evening, especially Englishmen telling me they've given up, and even close personal friends telling me they're planning on leaving. They're going to America. They're going to go to Poland. They want to go somewhere else because our country is failing. And my answer to them was, so you blame immigration for our problems in this country, but yet you think the solution is for you to become a migrant and go to someone else's country. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's because they've lost their heart. And the reason why they've lost their heart is because they don't understand what an amazing country England is. For people who want to know why it's called England and not called Great Britain or United Kingdom, I addressed that in the first page of the book. But I wanted to talk just about England, about the history. And for people who are downhearted at the moment, and there's lots of reasons to be downhearted, of course there is. I'm not making light of any of that. But we need to understand this seems bad at the moment because we're living through it. But as a country, we've been in worse situations than this before. You know, the Spanish Armada came 3 times to our shores. Napoleon was waiting for a summer's day just for good weather so we could invade. Nazis were invading. I lived through the 1970s when dead bodies weren't being buried and my house was full of candles every evening because there was no electricity. We've been through worse than this before, and we've always come through. We've always been victorious. And I've come to the conclusion now that the English can't be defeated. We've never been defeated. We can't be defeated. The only people who can beat us are the English. And that's what our enemies have been doing since the Second World War. That's why they've introduced cultural Marxism. That's why we've got mass immigration. That's why all our traditions are being attacked because they're trying to demoralize us. And if they demoralize us, then maybe they can win the fight that's to come, because there's a war always coming, and one's coming with China in our lifetime, I reckon. So for Englishmen out there, and let's extend it to British men and British women, we're undefeated. Only you can defeat this country if you don't take your personal responsibility and if you let all this slide. And if you run away, I'm constantly criticizing all these migrants that keep turning up on our shores because they abandon their country, they abandon their families and their friends and their children, and they run away like cowards and they come here for a better life. And we want Englishmen and British men to do the same, to run away somewhere else and be a coward. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And I'm all about personal responsibility and tough love. And that's what this book's all about. It's about speaking to men in this country and saying to them, you need to be better because your forefathers were better. We're breeding a whole generation of men now that look like men and resemble men, but they're not really men. They're inferior versions of women. And there's nothing wrong in being a woman if you're female, but nobody wants an inferior version of anything. So men need to stand back up, brush themselves down, best foot forward, and start being a provider and a protector, and stop looking for excuses and stop looking for the government to fix our problems. Stop looking for a leader who's going to take charge and lead you to the promised lands. Englishmen, British men need to solve this problem. That's why I wrote the book. I went on a bit of a rant then, sorry.
Oh, Nick, 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 it was great.
How can we buy that book? Nick, how can we buy that book?
How do we buy the book?
Where's it available?
So I've self-published because I got sick of publishers. So it's only available on Amazon. If you go on Amazon Books, you can get it on Kindle, you can get it on paperback. So just go into Amazon and Google Nick Buckley MBE, England, My England, and there we go. It'll pop up. It's my 4th book, and it's only been out 6 weeks, and it's already my best-selling book.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Nick, listening to your speech there, I mean, it's spine-tingling, but there's a caveat. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, right?
Yep, sure.
The problem that we have, when you talk about the Spanish Armada being off the coast and Napoleon and the Nazis, I get all that. But there was one major difference with all 3 of those situations. The people back at home on the Isles, on the island of England or Britain, were on our side. The authorities were on our side. We were united. Now we as people, as British people, English people, I fear the police more than I fear just about anyone else, because I don't trust them. I believe the police in this country would rather lock me up as a patriotic Englishman than lock up a terrorist that had come here from some far-flung. So we're almost
Manchester airport attackers.
Exactly. So I feel that we are not just under attack from people from outside, but we're also attacked from people within. And they're the biggest danger. They're the ones that give us a real problem. The traitors that we see on a Saturday afternoon standing side by side with Islamists that want to destroy our country. and destroy our Christianity, destroy our culture. And, you know, they'll stand next to people who will support grooming gangs, who will support, you know, Hamas and prescribed terrorist groups. Those people are here. They're a Trojan horse. And so many of them have got so much goddamn power. So whilst I love everything that you said, Nick, unfortunately, I think times are very, very different now.
They are, if we're looking at the Armada, Napoleon and Hitler. But if we just concentrate on the 1970s, it's the same problem. It's this Marxist ideology that I think is being promoted by our enemies to destabilize this country and to ruin this country. We beat it in the 70s, and we know the 70s were really, really bad for people who don't remember the 70s. You should Google it and have a look what was going on in the 70s. You are right. It's harder to fight a battle when your enemies are also your next door neighbors and you don't know who you can trust and who you can't trust. It's a bit easier to mobilize and to gather people around something, a common factor, if the enemy is overseas, because it's easy to identify the enemy. Now, I don't think this isn't an easy fight by any means. The point I was trying to make with people is victory is on the cards. The first thing you have to do, I mean, this, you know, boxing is good for this. Mike Tyson would say, I'd won the fight before I stepped in the ring because I'd look into the eyes of the opponent before I climbed over the ropes, and I knew I'd already won because he was terrified. Churchill says, a country that surrenders hardly ever rebirths because they live on their knees. A country that's defeated in war normally will come out of that because they've gained their pride and their self-respect. And that's what I want English and British men and women to do, is to know it's a hard fight, but there's still too many men who speak to me who are doing nothing about it, who are really good at complaining and really good at moaning and really good at pointing at the issues and then say things like, well, there's nothing I can do because there could be consequences. Well, what sort of fight, war, battle is there when there is no consequences?
Yeah.
If you're waiting for a time to fight back with no consequences, that's never going to turn up.
Happen. Yeah.
So take some responsibility. Yeah, I don't want people to be arrested. I don't want people to lose their jobs if they can help it. But the days of doing nothing are over. And each individual in this country has to decide for themselves what they're willing to do and what they're willing not to do, and start doing the stuff you're willing to do. Because if we can get 70 million people doing a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, add all that up, that's a tsunami of change. That's a tsunami of patriotism.
Making, I mean, one of the first things they can do is make sure they're bloody registered to vote.
Yes.
That's a minor thing. But I say this before, I've said it before, look, you know, this is where I get annoyed with certain groups. The RNLI, the police, the courts, the judges, the CPS, all of these people have got to make their goddamn minds up whose side they're on and where we're going and where we're going to end up. You know, I'm sorry. I mean,
I was going to say, our police force is slowly turning into a Soviet-style Gestapo.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I trained police officers. I was based in police stations for many years. I've trained police officers. I wrote plans. I wrote award-winning projects for Greater Manchester Police. They weren't like this 20, 25 years ago. The seeds were there then. I remember looking at the seeds then. But when you've got law-abiding citizens who have never been arrested and never been prosecuted, they now dislike the police. Criminals have always hated the police and complained about the police. That just means the police were doing a good job. But now you've got law-abiding people who don't trust the police, who despise the police. That's not a healthy society.
It's very dangerous. And that's what happened. That's what happened in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. And I mean, obviously, I was very much on the loyalist side, but on the Republican side, the Republicans, even nationalists that were non-violent, that weren't involved in the IRA, had a deep distrust of the police, whether rightly or wrongly. They despised the RUC, and you know, I thought the RUC was a fantastic police force, but the Republican nationalists, even middle class people, lawyers, bankers, you know, solicitors, they were very, very distrustful of the police. And what we've got now is exactly the same scenario. You know, we work with the police on a regular basis when we do our demonstrations in London, and those lads we're working with, we've built up a certain amount of respect, and, you know, they do their job, we do our job, and we make sure between us we keep order and we keep the peace. But we've been shafted by them on numerous occasions, and it took a long time for us to build that trust up with the team that we've got now, because for 7 years they just stitched us up, walked us into ambushes by Antifa and the left, and attacked us. So so there are some good ones, and you can get a good working relationship even with officers now, even with the Met. But it took a long time. It's taken a lot of work for us to get, to where we are. So you're absolutely right, Nick, and that's a very dangerous situation because policing's by consent, and if the public don't consent anymore, the whole system falls apart.
Doesn't matter.
And I think the left know that.
Richard, it doesn't matter, because they don't need our consent anymore, because, like Nick said, they're becoming like a Stasi. But here's the thing. There's two issues with the police that I see. The first issue is the recruitment has been completely obliterated. I mean, the recruitment is appalling.
PC.
That's the first thing.
PC.
PC. And the second thing that is wrong is that the police are slaves to their pension. And that is a massive problem. They are slaves to their pension. They will do almost anything to make sure they don't lose their pension. And whilst I get that, what I don't get is, I've said it before, I don't care how much you pay me to turn on my own people. I could never do it. And this is why I'm done with the RNLI as well. I've always given money to the RNLI. I've had boats myself in the past, you know that. I've had like a bit of a thing with the RNLI for years, because when I've gone out, if I get into trouble, it's the RNLI that's going to come and save my life. But I'm done with the RNLI. I don't care what their excuse is. There is no excuse for going out and acting as a taxi service. And by the way, an unpaid taxi service, because they're volunteering to do this job. Who is volunteering to go and pick up people to bring them back to this country, to a lot of them potentially to cause problems? So I'm done with the RNLI, I'm done with the police, and we're fighting all these organisations that are, or should be, on our goddamn side. It's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. Choose change. Thank you very much. When a party that claims to represent the working class instead serves its own interests, it undermines the very values it was built upon. Absolutely.
Labour.
Mike on a trike. Evening, gents. My stepnan slipped in a hospital on New Year's Eve and broke her hip. She had to wait 4 hours on a cold floor for an ambulance to transfer her to a different hospital. And one of the reasons is because when they admit someone into hospital,
I know what you're going to say. I was going to bring this up. Exactly the same thing. That's why there's massive waiting lists. Yeah.
The ambulance staff cannot leave that person until they've been taken over, until they're processed. When they took me in with my kidney stone, they filled me full of morphine, and I was actually not too bad. By the time they got me back to the hospital, they stayed with me for nearly an hour, just sitting next to the...
Paul, they need a processing area, don't they, where the ambulances can come in, dump them in the processing area, and then they get moved through the system. The ambulance then can get straight out on the road, going to deal with further cases. Hence, then you won't have a 5-hour delay for a lady that broke her hip.
Exactly, Danny.
On the street. You know, it just needs a processing centre. It's not rocket science, none of this, Paul. But they don't seem to be able to get there.
I said to them, I'm all right now. You can go, and they went, no, we can't leave you until you've been, Nina, cheers, Nina. She says, as a British-born Greek, you should hear me speak. You would think I was born near the Bow Bells. Richard, you're welcome to stay with us in February. There you go, Richard.
Yep.
Put me up.
Appreciate it.
Mind you, I'll tell you what, Nina, he did half snore. I can vouch for that. God, yeah, honestly. Wisdom nuggets and tidbits. Happy Christmas to you, wonderful gentlemen. Be safe and blessed in the new year. Praying for you all. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Steve, appreciate that, mate. Trailer. Where are we? Trooper Trading. This is in deep territory. They're watching Acts or not. I feel a revolution is coming. Well, let's hope it's a political revolution. That's what we need. Cheers, Claire Bear. You're an absolute star. Need an A4 copy of the pledge. Please, people want to print. Yes, Richard. Right, now, I asked Richard last time to get it on the site. Wink, wink. Going to ask him again publicly.
Have you sent the PDF yet, Paul? I'm still waiting.
Oh, I've got to send the PDF of it.
Yeah, I'll put it on the site. You do the PDF. I'm not doing everything.
I'll do the PDF.
Have we got on the site yet the QR code? Is it there? Because if you're around your neighbour's house or your friend's house over Christmas, etc., you can then just put it on there, say, "Yeah, mate, give us your phone," and then straight away they're on it, and then they will sign it. The QR code.
Do you know what, Danny? It's so easy and so quick to sign up. They can do it on their phone in seconds. I tell you what, Urban Scoop tonight was in touch with Urban Scoop earlier on. 4,000 people watching, guys, which is low actually for a Friday night. And there's a reason behind that. If you haven't already upvoted, please do so. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Urban Scoop reported to me earlier on that views on their latest video are not what they should be. Views on a couple of my last videos this week have not been anywhere near what they should be. All of a sudden, we're getting the squeeze put on us with exposure. Very much so. Did a video yesterday, I released it. It's had 27,000 views. Normally that video will get 100,000 views. So something sinister is going on with visibility.
And do you know what?
And Urban,
the worrying thing is that's Twitter as well, because Urban Scoop's only on Twitter. You know, they don't have a YouTube presence because of Tommy. So and I've noticed my Twitter numbers have just stagnated for about a month. Haven't had no additions.
Paul, I did see a comment earlier saying, "Paul, can you get Rumble?" I know as a backup.
Rumble's a waste of time, Danny. Nobody watches it. Right. Nobody watches it. Let's have a quick look.
It's not censored, is it? It's not censored, I don't think.
No, it's not. But it hasn't got the views yet. There needs to be a platform that's equivalent to if Elon did something that's equivalent. But I'm worried. Do you know what, Paul? I'm gonna just say it right. I'm concerned that because we're seen as dissenting from reform, that maybe I wonder is Elon putting the squeeze on Twitter, because Twitter is not giving us the results that we should be getting at the minute. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. You know.
Let's have a little look at one second. Let me just remove that. Thank you, Claire, by the way. Let's just have a little look at a quick preview of what's on Urban Scoop on X. Please make sure you do not miss this.
Sophie was just 20 years old when she started at Oxford University. She had dreams, hopes, ambitions, with a whole future in front of her, until one dreadful night took a fatal turn. This is Sophie's story.
Obviously November, so 2 months in, she got attacked, and that kind of derailed it. I suppose it's every parent's worst nightmare. She's very innocent, very trusting.
So the attack happened in a churchyard. Okay. I'd first met this man, or seen this man, way back in the city centre. Okay. He'd followed me for a very long time before the attack actually happened.
So that is Sophie's story that I've watched already myself, and great production again from Urban Scoop, and Sammy's smashing it out of the park. Richard, Sammy's doing. I'm so pleased with
superb.
Sammy.
Absolutely superb.
So pleased with Sammy.
And let's get it right. Sammy has suffered a great deal and has showed incredible courage for years, and now I believe that she's found her life's calling, because she's a natural journalist. Yeah. She's a superb presenter. She's confident. She wins the person over. You know, she's got that charm about her. So I think Sammy's an
She's great.
absolute asset to the team. I mean, she really is, and she's a really nice person as well. I mean, if you meet Sammy,
Paul,
she's just one of us. She's just down to earth. You can have a laugh with her. She's great.
is that video on YouTube or is it on Twitter or X?
On Twitter, on X.
Well,
yeah,
it will be on
X.
YouTube because they do have a YouTube channel, Danny. But it'll be it'll be hidden, you know, because it's all shadow banned. Everything that they do is shadow banned. But it'll also be on Twitter on Tommy's page and on Urban Scoop.
Okay.
If that is, 'cause I shared it
Realmcaster.
earlier.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, Realmcaster. Hi, everyone. I'll say this. You already got the numbers. You just need the plan. Add the action to carry it forward. Action speaks louder than words. That's the thing that I think I've been struggling with this week, Richard. You know what? I'm tired of making videos moaning. Tired of it.
Yeah,
I'm sick and tired of moaning.
Totally.
You know,
Totally.
I want to get out there and I want to get involved in things. I want to bring people together. That's why Nick fired my imagination last night when he talked about a coalition, which is what's needed. We need unity now more than ever. Lee, apologies for my previous depressing message, lads, but I believe the only way out of this damn mess now is to truly stick to reform. All of us, simple. Lee, I'm not going to argue with that, and I'll tell you why I'm not going to argue with you, because I think you're probably right. However, there is a but to that, and Richard will probably have a bigger but than me. We must make sure we don't allow the formation of a second Tory party. That is not what we're signing up for me. And Nick, how do you feel about that?
I've had this question several times now over the last few months, and my answer is this. Reforms seem to be the best choice at the moment. So let's use them. And I mean that in a derogatory term. Let's use them to take us part of the way of where we want to go. And if they take a wrong turn along the way, well, stop, reform, get off, and then another party, another vehicle will be there to take us the rest of the way. Reform look like they're heading in the right direction. So let's use them at the moment to take us on that journey. And if we don't like where they're taking us, get off. Treat it like a bus. That's how we should treat all political parties, as a bus, as a vehicle. We pay our fare, we get on. They're taking us to the destination we want to go to. And once we realise they're not going where we want to go to, get off.
We get off.
Sometimes to do a journey, you need to take a bus, a taxi, and do a bit of walking. You know, so most
the problem, Nick, I love an analogy and I like that one. I'm also going to throw one back at you. The only problem with that is, mate, is that sometimes the next bus ain't coming along for a very long time and it's a long walk. You know,
and that might be perfectly true, but waiting for that perfect vehicle to turn up isn't going to turn up. So we need to use the vehicles, the buses that are available at the moment. So it looks like Reform is that bus at the moment. Let's use it until something better turns up or until it's going in the wrong direction.
Well, I'll tell you
Richard,
what, the bus that we're all on at the minute, all on at the minute in this country is heading for a brick wall, isn't it? You know, very fast. It's going to be a bus crash because this ain't the bus we want to be on at the minute. Let's put it that way.
Richard, I know you'll probably have slightly different opinions to that. Let's.
Well, you said, I mean, you called it right, Paul. You said I've got a bigger butt than you. I'm going on a diet in the new year. That's all going to be sorted out. So we don't have to worry about that. That's going to be okay. But no, look, I mean, I like the idea of a grand coalition. I really do. I think it's a great idea, Nick, and it's what I've really been talking about. I hadn't called it a grand coalition, so you better copyright that quick, or else we'll steal it on you, Nick. You know, but it's a great idea, and that's what we're really talking about. We just hadn't called it that, you know. So, and I think the pledge. I think we've got UKIP, we've got Reform. We've got loads of other parties. We've got Ben Habib doing his thing. We'll have Tommy doing his thing when he comes out. We've got all the citizens journalists. So we have the seeds of that grand coalition. And do you know something, right? One of the problems is this: the elite will not deal with us. I'm not talking about, you know, the people that we talked about before. I'm just going to call it Matt Goodwin, Douglas Murray. You know, all of these people. You know, they know who we are. We know who they are. We need to get together because what have they got that we haven't got? Well, maybe they've been university lecturers, or they've been educated at Eton and Oxford. But that makes their blood is still exactly the same colour as ours is, and we're all thinking along the same lines. So the elites actually need to reach out to the working classes, because we've tried reaching up, and there's always a reason why they won't deal with us, right? And they need to get down. And I don't even like talking about our level, because I don't class myself as any lesser a man than anybody that sits in the House of Lords or even sits on the throne of England. We're all made equal in the sight of God. But the reality is that they need to come to us and do business with us, because we could get many millions of people following
Richard.
the right movement and the right people. And I think, again, I keep coming back to the pledge, but the pledge is a massive part of that. But the people are there and the people are ready. But it's a question of the people who have got the power now, who have got the influence, actually reaching out that hand, because we've reached out to them and it's been rebuffed and rebuffed and rebuffed. And it's about time that sniffiness and that elitism, and I'm not going to, I've met Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray is a very nice man. So I used him and I don't know Matt Goodwin either. I think he's actually from our sort of background, but I'm using them as two examples. But, there needs to be that reaching out among that sort of, let's call it the university educated class, right? And again, I'm not attacking anyone that's university educated. We were probably all doing different things when they were doing degrees. We were working or in the army or whatever.
I was having a load of fun, Richard. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was in the army when other people my age were doing university, so I was having great fun. It was brilliant, getting paid for just, yeah, it was great. But the reality is that we need that coming together, and a coalition's only going to work if all the parties are willing. And we have been willing, but the other parties haven't been willing, Paul. And that's the problem that we've got.
Well, it's the thing.
They need to put that sniffiness aside. It's. Do you know what it is? It's old-fashioned, and Nick called it out right about Tommy. It's old-fashioned English snobbery, and I don't play that game. I'm not going to doff the cap to anyone. At the end of the day, if people want to come and talk to me as a man, they can talk to me as a man. I don't care how much you're worth or how little you're worth. We're all equal, and we need to treat each other like that.
Yeah, Mark Quinn says, is anyone going to reach out and organise this grand coalition, and who is going to make the first move? Well, I'll tell you what, Mark. I mean, look, this word grand coalition is new, but the idea as such is the pledge. It's what we've been working on for many, many months. Now, it's funny you say that, Richard, it's about time they started coming to us. Do you know how many times I reach out to people, or someone will reach out to me and they'll say, oh, you need to speak to Joe Bloggs. And I'll say, who's Joe Bloggs? They go, oh, they're very important. They once wiped Nigel Farage's wine glass or whatever. And I've got to the point now, and I'm saying, do you know what? Let them come to us. I'm sick and tired of going to these people that think there's something special and who have done nothing, achieved very little, and are doing even less to save their country. So this is why, if we can build the numbers on the pledge, we can start going and be saying, listen, here we are, we're back again. We're not going away, because we've got a job to do, and we're going to do it.
I would advise that. I understand the points you're making, they're all valid points. As long as you keep the door open, those people will come knocking on your door eventually, because we're all heading in the same direction at this moment in time. We're all on different paths, but it's all heading to the same destination. And every now and again, those paths will intersect. So you never know who's going to knock on your door to say, oh, I just heard about you, or someone's recommended this, or I saw the video. So as long as we all keep our doors open to the people who have ignored us previously, then we're being a lot more open, and we're just being the bigger person. There's only so many times you can knock on someone's door and be ignored.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Nick. And do you know what? Again, I've got to say, credit to Tommy, because when I went to see him a week ago, whenever it was, and I said to him, what are we doing? Have we done with reform? Have we just had enough? How many more times can we let them kick us in the balls? And he went, no. Let's give them another. Let's don't turn their backs on them just yet. Let's keep giving them another chance. Let's keep, let's hold out the hand of friendship and let's try and unite. Let's invite Nigel to the next event. Will they turn up? Will they accept our hand of friendship? We'll see. But he was right. He was dead right.
That's the thing, Paul. I mean, I think forgiveness is a very British value, and it's a very Christian value, and Tommy has it in bucket loads. And to be fair, I think most of us do. I mean, if I have a row with someone, and whether it's my fault or their fault, I will always go and hold out the hand to them. Now whether they take it or not, it's up to them. And you can't do any more than that, can you? But I'm exactly the same. My hand's always out. So I think it's absolutely right, Nick. We're always open to people coming to us. But I think the thing is, we're not going to go chasing people. We've chased a few people, and you get to the stage, you keep chasing, you end up with a restraining order. You know what I mean? You've got to be sensible about it. So, but those people know where we are, and there's no reason for them not to come and sit down and talk to us, to be honest with you. And
if what you're doing keeps growing and growing, and you're going in the right direction, they will come and knock on your door eventually.
Yeah.
BC Let Jog, thank you. Sign the pledge. Hold the line, lads. Doing great. One love. Thank you very much. Love that. Just me. Can you print off the pledge, because some people don't use the internet or emails? Love from Sue in Hartlepool. You can, Sue. The only problem with printing it off is that somehow it's got to be
get to you.
What's the right word? It's got to either get to us or it's got to be put onto the email system. But
here's
the
thing. There's actually a thing about this, right? I was thinking about this. Yes, obviously, what we want is everybody signing the online version of the pledge, right? Anybody who can sign the online version. But there's nothing wrong with people printing a whole lot of copies of the pledge off and basically giving it to people that can sit down and read it, even if I'd say it's very few people don't have the internet, right? Even in Hartlepool. I can say that because I was brought up in Middlesbrough. But we'll not even mention monkey herders, right? But the reality is that people could print it off and disseminate it, because it's still getting out there and it's still the ideology. So to me, it's just it's like a lion, just let it loose, let it out the cage, and let it go and hunt down its prey. You know what I mean? It's going to have legs of its own. It's going to. So I don't. We want 1 million people on that database. With postcodes, so that come the election, we can go to every single MP and say, "Have you signed the pledge? If not, why not?" And then if it's no, then we go, "Okay, well." Bill Smith signed the pledge. He's standing for reform. He's standing for this party. He's standing for UKIP. We'll vote for him because he's basically on the same page as us. So that's the whole the whole idea behind it, and obviously instilling that ideology into people. And what you were talking about, Nick, earlier as well, giving Englishmen, and I think you're right. This is peculiar to Englishmen, because in Northern Ireland, men that are from Northern Ireland, on both sides of the divide. If you're from Northern Ireland and you're a Republican, you're proud to be Irish. If you're from Northern Ireland and you're a loyalist, you're an Ulsterman. Scottish men are all proud of their country, and a lot of them are not too fond of the English. The Welsh are proud of the country probably to a lesser extent, but the English have been deliberately by the state, by the media, by the powers that be, demoralised, despised, rejected by that elite again. And I think your book is so timely to put, backbone back in the English. I made a speech years ago about the grooming, saying, "Where are the men of England?" Allowing this to happen. And I think it's vital that Englishmen get their pride back, and not an aloof or arrogant pride, but just hold on a minute. We're English, and we're going to stand, for what we believe in. And Nick, I think you need to come to the next event and speak. I think, Nick, what are you doing on the 1st of February? You're invited. 1st of February, Central London.
I've no idea.
You're cordially invited to our event.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Blake. I appreciate that. BC Let Jog again says, I stand and fight. No yellow bellies here. Lads, Marianne Williams, thank you. My granddaughter just bought me England, My England for Christmas. Thank you for having Nick on, guys.
Marianne. Hello, Marianne. Marianne's one of my followers.
Oh, lovely. Is available on Amazon. David Crosby, we are being invaded by rubber boats. Lee Butcher, Starmer like AI, artificial idiot. I tell you what I did notice tonight. How much Rachel from accounts sounds like Keir Starmer. I cannot believe how much Rachel from accounts. No.
Have you seen them both in the same room together, Paul?
Mate?
Thank you, Kath. No, I haven't. You know, that's a good point. But it's like one of them is going to pull down a mask and the other one is underneath the mask. They both speak the same. Unbelievable. Alan Wilden, thank you. Message to the Four Musketeers. At the top of my bucket list is to see the great put back into Britain before I leave that and have a beautiful Christmas and New Year. Alan, thank you so much. Guys, no more supers tonight because we'll be wrapping it up soon. Thank you, as always, for those. And if you haven't done so already, as this one says, Lee, hit the like button, guys. Thank you. Help me because YouTube are playing games at the moment. Keith Griffiths, I stood against my super in West Mids, cost me my career. Got ill health pension. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. But well done, Keith. Well done. Angela Mitchell, vid for us to show about the pledge. Why? What? Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've spoken about that before. Yeah.
Do that.
Keith, thank you. Print QR code and send with Xmas cards. Good point.
Great idea.
Great idea. So, Richard, you know, the weekend of action is next weekend. We'll be letting people know more about that as the week progresses. Scotty John, politicians have no clue how to live on 20 quid a week. No, absolutely. Mind you, I'll be honest with you, I don't think there's many people that have to live on £20 a week, but that must be absolutely horrendous. Nina again, thank you.
I would say it could be full.
You haven't heard my husband and dog. What was you saying, Richard?
She was on about my snoring. There could be quite a lot of people living on £20 a week. You know, you hear a lot of horror stories of people mortgaged up to the hilt, and they're both the two people on big incomes, and they're still only just scraping by. You know, I mean, it's you know, there's massive problems in this country. I mean, there really, really is. But do you know what? I've got, for the first time in a long time, despite all the bad stuff that's happened, I've got real hope this year. I'm really hopeful that we're, you know, there's a lot, as we were talking about earlier, Paul, there's a lot of plates still spinning. There's a lot of things still in play. And we just need all the planets to align, and we're going to be in a stronger position. But there's a lot of work to be done.
Richard, I'm glad you said that, because I think this is something that we should tell the viewers. Let me just read one or two more of these out. Judy Blackman, thank you. 600 on boats yesterday. National emergency. Was there really?
Paul, let me just add to that. There's one just come up in the comments from Paul Wells, UK. 8 boats come across today, 69 per boat.
Wow. Thanks, Eric.
And they're the ones you know about, you know.
Exactly. Not in the back of the lorries and stuff. Yeah.
BC Jetlog again, thank you. Lads, reform not the way. I pledge, sign per constituency, stand as independents, candidates to be vetted, win ref on direct democracy, get us out of this broken system. Simple. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I think we should tell the viewers, Richard, that, you know, we share their frustrations, and like you spoke about spinning plates. I think the viewers need to know that there is so many things going on in the background right now. Yeah. If there are times when we appear to be sitting on our hands, trust me, we are not. But there are a lot of people out there right now that aren't quite sure what they're doing, where they're going, who they're going to be supporting. There's a lot of things to evolve. I've said that a few times over the last couple of streams. there's a lot of things to unvolve in the new year, a lot of things to become more obvious, and a lot of things to pan out. We're on all of it, but for many reasons, we just can't reveal necessarily certain things right now because we've been asked not to. We've been told things in confidence, and we have to respect that confidence. Nick, where do you see 2025 going politically? I mean, the council elections are going to be big in May, obviously. Where do you see?
There's something even bigger on the horizon than that, and that's
Wales.
Trump in January. Because if he starts doing what he said he's going to do, we're going to be looking across the pond, and we're all going to be going, we want some of that.
Some of that,
Millions deported, we want some of that. He's closed his borders, we want some of that. He's ended gender ideology, we want some of that. He's sacked all the mentally ill men who think they're women from the army. We want some of that. He reduces taxes. He takes away bureaucracy from running a business. Their economy booms. We want some of that. He starts drilling for more gas and oil, and their energy prices collapse and they're paying pennies. We're going to go, we want some of that. What Trump does, we're going to look at, and we're going to be envious.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a very good point. David Crosby, Netflix movie Memory, fantastic movie. I've not seen that one. I might have a little look at that one in bed tonight.
I've seen it, but I forgot what it was about.
Laura N. Paul, you just said what I've been thinking all day. Starmer sounds like reason, so does Miliband. I can't stop thinking about Rachel from accounts. It gets me every time.
Behave yourself, Paul.
No, not in that way, Richard. No, not in that. No. James Bond says 21st September 2024, 6 p.m. Turn on every electric appliance around the country. Spread the message. Jesus is coming, and so in English. Sign the pledge. Brilliant. City Gent is a new member. Thank you. And City Gent gifted a new member as well. That's it with the supers, guys. So thank you no more tonight. I really appreciate them all as always. We've been running for nearly an hour and a half tonight, which is a little bit longer than usual. There are absolutely thousands and thousands of messages in the regular chat. Thank you for all of those. I'll try and have a look through as many as possible. Let's have a little look what's coming up over the weekend. Fulham are playing Liverpool. So I think I might be a disappointed Paul tomorrow afternoon, but we'll see. Nick, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we need to get you back soon, mate.
Yeah, invite me anytime. And if people have found what I've been talking about interesting, follow me on YouTube. My channel's Nick Buckley MBE, daily videos, daily podcasts. And if not everybody wants to read a book, but if you like reading books, there we go. Get my book, and you won't be disappointed.
England, My England, are available on Amazon. Don't forget to subscribe to Nick's channel as well. We'll really appreciate that. Let's have a little look.
Danny, I'm going to buy the book tonight. I'm going to get it on Kindle tonight. So I'll read it.
Danny, before we go, Danny, just give us a quick rundown on what the weather's like in Spain at the moment. I was out there, was it last week or the week before, and it was a bit chilly in the evening.
It's pretty much like that, Paul, to be fair. I've just come back from Madrid. That was freezing. It was all right during the day, but freezing of a night.
Would you recommend
it's quite
Madrid?
Cold of a night now. I loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Richard's that guy that leaves his phone on at a funeral.
In the cinema, yeah.
In the cinema, yeah. Richard, we're
getting all this, Rich.
So I'll mute him.
Right. But the weather down Murcia way, which is where I am, it's lovely. During the day, I think we're on about 20-21 most of the time. At the evening, it drops down to about 8. So it's nice though, mate. That's
the only reason I'm asking you, Danny, is I can see a bit of hate chat coming for you, at the bottom, because we're all sitting here freezing, you know what I mean?
Didn't want to say anything, but I will.
You've just turned Danny into Michael Fish. You've just turned Danny into Michael Fish. Come on.
Oh dear. Well, he is a salmon.
Yeah. All right. Calm down, Mr. Commando.
I lined you up for that one, Danny.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate. Sorry about that.
Danny, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks,
I really
Paul.
appreciate it, mate. Give my love to Sophie and the gang. Richard,
Will do,
thank you
mate.
so much. You are flying back to England, I believe, tomorrow. Is that right?
Yep.
You're,
I'm coming
you're
back
going to be
tomorrow.
seeing. You're going to be seeing our friend Tommy on Sunday.
Yep.
Give him our love, please. Send him all our
Yep.
very best wishes and tell him to take care, look after himself, and we look forward to seeing him soon. Don't forget to tell him that all the viewers have been asking about him again, as always. And have a safe flight. Nick, thanks for joining us. Danny, thanks for joining us. Richard, thanks for joining us.
much.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's been a great hour and a half. Love
Brilliant,
you all.
fluid.
Always see you.
Yep.
We'll see you
Great
again
stuff.
soon. See you guys.
Yep.